Hey everyone, welcome back to Verified Gains. Happy Monday. Hope everyone had a good weekend. Hope everyone is looking forward to a great week ahead. And guys, if you have not subscribed yet, please, I have 33 subscribers. Thank you very much. But if you have not subscribed and you're into cryptocurrency, most importantly Solana and or PopCat, you guys are really missing out because I'm putting out these videos on a weekly basis. And if you're not subscribed, that means you're not up to date with the weekly videos that I put out. And you do not want to miss out, especially on the second half of 2025, during which I predict the Bitcoin cycle top, and that could happen at any moment. Okay, so if you miss out like my YouTube post or my video, for example, then there's a high likelihood that you will miss out on what's to come. Okay, so with that being said, let's dive right into the chart. So starting with Bitcoin, what's going on? So my last video, which was on the 29th, now this was the day before the federal chair's announcement regarding the economy and also the US government's crypto policy agenda news. Overall, it looks like people, at least in the short term, did not take the news too positively. So the market really did correct itself. And I believe that also liquidated a lot of people. So here we were actually hovering what was back then a support line around $117,000. And since we broke down to the downside, almost retested the $110,000 support line. However, we actually bounced back slightly above that, around $112,000. When you look at the liquidity heat map, which I'll show you guys, there's a lot of liquidity down there and ended up liquidating. And now the price is bouncing back up. You know, ever since the last video, I definitely did convert this to a resistance line. So now we're going to have to retest $117,000 before we resume our price discovery to the upside. And guess what, guys? It'll happen. Okay. So what was the one warning sign? Well, we had this particular red candlestick, which I had talked about before, right? So you have the real body, the thick part of the candle over here, followed by a long shadow, this tail to the downside. And what the market likes to do is they usually like to retest these levels, and that was at 114,000 and a half. However, the market broke down even below that. But what you see now here from a technical perspective is that we formed some very solid candles, meaning it's mostly comprised of this thick part, what we call the real body, okay, rather than the tail. And now that we've essentially filled all these price points, and now we, had this very solid formation where we, tested the $112,000, consolidated above it, and now we're resuming upwards. This is a very positive sign in terms of the price resumption to the upside. Okay, so um, and guys, it's not always videos. Sometimes I just post like a screenshot or just like a normal post. So make sure you guys are not missing out on those either, because yesterday on my channel, I posted the fact that I bought a good amount of Solana and PopCat over the weekend, and those are certainly a great buying opportunity. And we'll actually move on to that in just a little bit. But I want to show you guys one more thing, and I thought it was very interesting. For a long time, I've been kind of ignoring it, but once I check the data, it makes a little more sense, and that is the M2 money supply. Okay, so meaning, I mean, for a while, from time to time, I check the dollar price. I take a look at the S&P 500 index. I look at oil prices. I look at M2 money stock. But I did not really correlate this with the Bitcoin price because I was a little doubtful whether it was true or not. However, things are looking pretty positive. So, for example, according to who you follow, I've seen it anywhere from 75 days to 82 days in terms of so basically the idea is that the Bitcoin price is lagging the M2 money shift, which is basically a representation of global liquidity. And the amount of days that's lagging behind is anywhere from 75 to 82 days, depending on the sources. So for example, if I took a look at 82 days, I mean, it kind of makes a little bit of sense, right? I mean, it's kind of hard to say that there's no correlation when it's clearly following the money supply over here. Now, the tricky part is, uh, sectors like these where there is a little bit of divergence. However, sometimes and more often than not, there is a strong convergence, okay, and rather a correlation. So now you have to be careful though, because the amount of percentage increase in the M2 money supply definitely does not correlate with the percentage increase in Bitcoin. As in, like, if there's a 20% increase here, that doesn't mean that the M2 money supply went up by 20%. So really the best way to take a look at this is just to say that, okay, there's a general upwards trend, and then there's a general downwards trend. And what people are arguing is that if you take a look at uh, the most recent data that we have, it looks like around September 20th, okay? Let's say mid-September, because also depends on what you set the days forward as. But let's say, around mid-September, which by the way is my predicted Bitcoin cycle top, there seems to be a decline in the M2 money supply. And as we approach September, because we have some days ahead of us, we have to keep a close look at whether this M2 money supply actually rebounds or continues to fall. Now, if it continues to fall, that further solidifies my hypothesis that the Bitcoin cycle top is going to be around mid-September. So we'll have to see. Now, again, I mean, we always look for patterns that corroborate our argument. And, to me, I think it makes sense. There has to be a liquidity for something like cryptocurrency, which is a new asset class to go up. So, if the M2 money supply, regardless of the federal interest rate cut or whatever global economic shift there is, if there is a fall in M2 money supply starting from mid-September, then that is a pretty good argument for Bitcoin cycle top at that point. Okay, so when looking at this, what does the immediate data show us? Okay, so when you do this, I mean, I don't know if there's a better way to do this, but I'm using TradingView. I try to keep the most recent data to the right side as much as possible, so there's the least amount of shift. Because if I start to kind of go, put the graph more towards the center, then it's kind of hard to align them. But anyways, so what we're seeing is that in the month of August, actually the first half of August, we see this great shift to the upside, okay? Possibly re-entering the $120,000 mark. And, is that like a crazy move to the upside? No, but it's great to see some evidence of price discovery within the first 2 weeks of August. And I think it should happen, and a lot of people well, not I wouldn't say a lot of people, but I saw some people fearing further correction in August, but I actually disagree. I think what we're going to end up seeing is continual uptrend throughout the month of August. Okay, a little bit of plateauing in the first half of September, and then, I mean, at least that's what the M2 money supply is showing. And then, for the next like 1 week, there's like an exponential growth. I mean, we'll see. So again, this is a pretty rudimentary way of looking at Bitcoin price and subsequent prediction. But I actually just want, maybe it's too much to look at the look at it in such a tight time frame. I think really the main point is to keep in mind that, hey, look, the M2 money supply is going to decline mid to late September. What do we think about that in terms of our hypothesis? Okay. All right, so let's get rid of this and let's take a look at Solana. So Solana was a great buying opportunity over the weekend. So I bought a whole bunch around $159. Basically, as long as it was below 160, I just bought and bought. So I bought a good amount. Okay. Um, I have no money in my bank account, and that's the way it should be. If you guys have money in your bank account during the crypto bull cycle, you guys are not doing it right. And of course, that is not financial advice. But anyways, that is my strategy. Guys, we're here to maximize profit, right? We're going for the 7-figure profit this year. So, save a little bit of emergency fund, but I don't need more than that. Anyway, same trend that we're seeing with Solana. So we sort of, consolidated around, 158, and now we're resuming back upwards. Look, until I see us consolidate above $180, this is still a pretty risky thing to trade. Okay, and guess what? I'm not trading, right? I'm investing. But granted, even from a DCA perspective or buying on the red day perspective, it's still risky because, $180 has traditionally been a very tough place for Solana, and now it's a resistance line once again. And how many times have you retested $180? Multiple times throughout the past year, right? So really what I'm looking for is a nice consolidation above it, and then consolidation above 205, and then I feel a little bit more comfortable. However, that said, because my average price for Solana is way below 160, this was a no-brainer for me. It was a great buying opportunity. Same thing goes with PopCat. Okay, so PopCat unfortunately broke down below 35 cents. Now it's going to be once again a resistance line. However, when we zoom out, it was a higher low when compared to back in June. So things overall are looking okay. Things are still looking okay. And I definitely bought more PopCat. In fact, on every red day over here. And right now, I'm not buying anymore. I want to see it consolidate above 35 cents, and then I'll buy more. Um, I've also buying some other meme coins actually. I was a little bored, I'm not gonna lie. So I was just going through crypto Twitter, seeing if there was anything fun to buy that I could maybe short term trade, just swing trade. And if everything goes well, maybe I'll reveal it. But um, but it's been keeping me a little bit preoccupied. Now, I did not buy a whole lot because last year I actually bought a lot of meme coins. I probably bought like 20 different meme coins. This time I just bought three, and I just trying to have fun with it. But it's a very small fraction of my entire portfolio, so we'll see. Anyways, guys, please subscribe. Please comment down below what you guys want to see on the next video. I'm always happy to discuss Solana or PopCat. Anyways, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening, and have a nice week. Bye bye.